Good morning, everyone. Thank y'all for joining us for our Beef Brunch news update on Tuesday, September 3rd. We're going to go ahead and turn it over to Brittany and let her kick it off for us.
Thanks, Ashley. So I'm over here, of course, in the central region of the state, and over the last week, we got some much needed rain. I know just kind of several people that I had talked to, had mentioned this like the drought like conditions that we were in, and of course we were waiting for the drought monitor to kind of update there, which it did last week. So we got some much needed rain. I'm not exactly sure on the total amount of rainfall. Here we didn't get quite as much rain, excuse me, as they got down in the lower part of the state, in that I-10 corridor and whatnot, but definitely had some fields that were hurting for some rain. So that's looking pretty good there. Other than that, I would say probably, I believe the last time I was on one of these, I know we talked a good bit about that there was lots of hay that had been baled recently. I think it's safe to say that that's, slowed down a bit. People, obviously the yields are much, much higher this year than they were compared to last year. We have several people that have got, they got a good amount of hay put up, to get them through the winter. And we're still seeing like quite a bit of hay for sale as well. Still, offering for people that want to test their hay, make sure that is something that y'all are doing. If you want to know the quality and the content of your hay, just so you can know, for supplementation needs and, for the nutrient requirements of your cattle, just to get them through the winter months and whatnot, we definitely recommend getting that hay tested. We do have the state hay contest that is going on right now. So we see a lot of really good samples come in with that. So I just want to encourage people to participate in that as well. Coming up this Thursday, we have the Evacuation Parish Cattlemen's Association is hosting a field day, which will be at 6:30 p.m. over at the Chauncey Pete Barn in Ville Platte. So for any cattlemen that are in the area, just want to invite y'all out to that. I'll be speaking at that as well as some other people from the industry. And I'm sure Ashley will mention this a little bit later, but of course we have our Beef and Forage field day over at Dean Lee next Thursday. So we're looking forward to that as well. So I guess I'll turn it over to Vince now for his update.
Thank you, Ashley, and thank you, Brittany, for that update. Yeah, likewise in the central region, as I reach out to folks in this area and south and just communicate with people throughout the state for different reasons. And the cattle conditions and pasture conditions and hay conditions always seem to come to a conversation at some point. And, there's a lot of folks prepping for, planting fall and winter forages, cleaning off excessive hay or forages that maybe have been in excess because of our early spring rains that we saw this year. Unlike last year, we had an abundance of forages where Brittany mentioned a lot of hay was made this year, and there's probably more out there than people would imagine. And there's still folks that haven't secured their hay yet, and we those are typical each year. We always have that, people looking for hay right at the winter feeding period, and but there's plenty out there. So quality of hay, I think we've looked at some of the recent hay samples that went in, and pretty typical for our area. I mean, it's quality of hay is not real good. We saw some really good ones, and saw some that thought were going to be good, that were fertilized and sprayed with herbicides and taken care of, that were in the 6s and 7s, where they need to be 8, 9, and 10% protein. So it's all the environmental impact of how things are treated, because we got really dry after the rains quit in July, and it really dried out, and some of the hay quality were very poor. But like Brittany mentioned, we got rains through the area. I did measure the rainfall at my place. In fact, we had slightly over 4 inches with 3 different rain events, but it was like an extended rain event for 4 days with showers and overcast. So the cattle really got comfortable with that. Pastures enjoyed it. Pastures greened up. People are starting to think. I talked to one of the area local reps here lately that they're booking ryegrass seed. So if you haven't done that, it's time to talk to your distributors and on what varieties of ryegrass you're going to use and what's available. It seems like, and I'm not quoting prices, but it may be a little bit more palatable this year as far as the price of seed. So reach out to your local seed reps and farm supply dealers to make sure that you got those needs secured as we move into the fall season. Anticipated cool front coming through on Friday, Saturday. It's going to make us feel really good about what the future holds as far as the fall weather. They say down in the upper 50s, Lee, even in our part of the world. So that's going to feel good. So with rainfall of last week and anticipated rain with this front coming through is typical of a fall onset of fall coming. And we do still have a little bit of armyworm issues, not only in pastures but in some crops that need a season change to kind of put those pests at bay. It's going to be time to test bulls here shortly as we move into the fall season. Continue to make sure those bulls are comfortable. Time to feed them up, maybe get them a little bit of supplement in them ahead of the breeding season to get them in condition and in shape to do their jobs here coming up December, January, February, whatever your breeding season may be. So that's about where we're at. But a lot of hay out there, a lot of hay made this year, and it's starkly different than what we experienced last year at this time of the year. So glad to be with y'all today, and hopefully we have a good fall and winter season and not overly wet, and not overly cold. So thank y'all for having me.
Lee, we'll go ahead and pass it on to you.
Thank you all. I'm glad to be with you all here today, and what a difference it has been since this last report as far as the weather goes. Brittany highlighted the rainfall down south. We didn't get quite as much in the northern parts of the state. It was sporadic. I talked to a cattle producer this weekend, in fact, that got over 2.5 inches, and his neighbor 2 miles down the road got an inch, maybe. So it was very sporadic up this way. There were some higher amounts, but every drop was appreciated. Anytime we can catch a rain this time of year in our country, it doesn't matter if it's a 1/10 inch or 5 inches, we surely do appreciate it. Sitting, listening to what Brittany and Vince have had to say, got a couple of remarks I want to make as to adding on to what they were saying. Armyworms in our country are still horrendous. Golly, people are just exhausted from fighting them. I'll be honest with you. I talked to many cattle producers and hay guys that just they have fought them all summer long, essentially, and repeated treatments and so on and so forth. So be grateful for a season change. Vince was talking about the hay supplies, folks. There is a tremendous amount of hay out there. There is no excuse if you don't have hay, why you don't need it. And I'll get on the soapbox just a little bit. Folks, we hadn't talked much about it in the last few news updates, but these input costs are still tremendous. Equipment costs are out of this world. Repair costs, diesel, though it's moderated a little bit, is still expensive historically. Folks, whenever you're looking at abundance of hay supplies, that means that a lot of these folks are going in the hole selling this hay to you, especially some of this quality hay. Maybe I don't need to go there, but whenever you're asking, $25 a roll for fertilized, sprayed, Bermuda grass hay, quality hay that hadn't been rained on, you're probably going in the hole there on that hay crop. But anyway, I didn't mean to go into all that. Just you need to appreciate your hay providers. If you don't put your hay up yourself, folks, appreciate where you're getting your hay from, because it's a tough year for the hay guys this year. Yes, they made a lot of it, but the price has been depressed and their costs are just tremendous and everything. I'm hearing the same things Vince is hearing about the cost of ryegrass, folks, and about other cool season varieties. Prices are going to be a little bit more moderate this year. Maybe I dare say down just a little bit. One thing that I've seen, a trend that I've seen, and Vince may want to jump back in here and add to or take away from what I'm about to say, but the trend I'm seeing over the last few years is an increase in bookings on ryegrass. Used to be, you know, these co-ops and farm supply stores in my part of the world would just stock the stuff and you could get it at any time. It seems like in the last few years they're leaning more on bookings on ryegrass and everything, and they may have it available, you know, if you need a few extra bags. But the price difference between the booking price and the price you just pay out the door if you don't book it, it has grown. There's quite a financial incentive for booking your ryegrass, folks. That's what I'm seeing in our country. I'm assuming it's that way rest across the state. Um, Moving into cattle markets, folks, I'm going to apologize. I do not have our Louisiana market reports. And I don't have a real good excuse for not having them other than I ran out of time, folks. But what I do have, if you follow the markets any, and especially if you follow some analysts, you'll realize that the futures market has taken a beating in the last couple of weeks. Cash prices have been down just a little bit. And I've seen a lot of people just panicking and calling it 2015 again. You know, we saw a tremendous drop in 2015, and I'm not saying that we're not kind of past peak of market. I don't know that we've reached peak market yet. But what I did want to highlight this morning, since I don't have a market reports, I wanted to kind of show you a slide that I use extensively when we're talking about prices. And so I'm going to share my screen. Maybe Ashley, you could give me a thumbs up whenever it's visible, please. Or okay. So what you're seeing on this screen is the Cattle Facts 10-year average of 550-pound steer prices. Okay, so we've got two lines charted there. The red dotted line is the 10-year index. Black is 2024. So that's current. That's where we're at currently on this. So I pulled this up this morning just to highlight the fact that we're kind of in a seasonal dip, folks. If you look at that red line, we know that between, you know, August and November, we're dipping on down nationally. All those spring-born calves are starting to hit the markets. We know that our prices take a beating. Well, if you look at our prices on 2024, we started dropping a little earlier than that fall run, but it's kind of mirroring that seasonal drop in prices, folks. So I'm not saying that we're not in a down market or approaching the down market. I'm not making any forecast. All I'm trying to point out with this slide is the fact that whenever you compare what's going on right now with the 10-year average, we're not in uncharted territory, folks, for this time of the year. What will be interesting to see is when we reach this November time frame and December, what will happen with this market? Will we continue to see a downturn, or will we start seeing an upswing, trying to get back into these record-breaking prices? Make no mistake about it, folks. Our prices are still high. We just cash prices on calves I'm talking about. Just maybe market may be moving to more of a seasonal pattern like we're used to on this 10-year average. And so with that being said, I do have a few events that I'd like to talk about briefly. October the 15th and 16th is our pregnancy determination clinic at the Hill Farm Research Station in Homer. I know we've had a lot of people signing up in the last week or so, and so if you want more information on that, you can reach out to us. You can call the research station at 318-927-2578 or reach out to me directly. On October 24th, the Northwest region is going to be having a cattle producers meeting at the Red River Parish at Red River Livestock at the sale barn there in Armistead. We're going to be speaking. Ashley's going to be talking about some EID rules that's making their way through the USDA. We're going to be talking about some winter supplementation options, some strategies on hay feeding, as well as the ever important market update. We're going to talk markets briefly and everything. And final event I want to highlight, I know it's a little time before Vince mentioned testing bulls, and gosh, it seems like we were just there as far as breeding seasons, but here we are talking about it again. November the 4th, Branch Ranch, our friends over there in Mansfield, will be having their Brangus and Ultra Black bull sale. on November the 4th there at the ranch near Mansfield. So look that up. We like to highlight these local sales, local events. If you have one and you'd like us to highlight, reach out to us and we'll make mention of it. And with that being said, I'll turn it over to you, Ashley.
All right, thank you.
I would like to chime in on something Lee mentioned about the ryegrass and the reasons for, the booking or the momentum for these companies and these distributors to book. They're like every other business. They have overhead, and if they have an excessive amount of seed on hand, we all know that freight has been ridiculous on anything you order today. So they don't want to have any in-house more inventory in-house than needed. So it's just a management strategy on their part to know how much seed they're going to handle and to minimize that cost of storing and handling. So yeah, it's worth your time to go ahead and book it, and you might get a little bit of a price break if you do so. So that's just the reason, and been in the industry. That's kind of the reasons why.
Thank you. If you're watching, you can see that Tripp's not with us today. He had a prior commitment this morning, but just in visiting with him over the past week or so, I think he would just echo everything that Lee said. We definitely did not get the rain in the northeast part of the state that Central and South Louisiana got. It was very sporadic depending on where you were at. And I know he's had quite a few armyworm calls as well. In terms of events, y'all been listening, y'all know we're pretty busy, and some of the guys this morning and Brittany have mentioned different things we've got going on. So Brittany mentioned the Dean Lee Beef and Forage Field Day. That's Thursday, September 12th. I do have a link to RSVP, if you will, please. It's free, but we're just trying to get a head count for meals on that. The Northeast Beef and Forage Field Day is Thursday, September 19th at the Goldmine Plantation in Mangham. I've got the number for the Union Parish office. That's where you RSVP for that. And Tripp is your contact if you have any questions. Tripp is also hosting a small footprint animal agriculture workshop on Saturday, September 21st in the Ouachita Parish Extension Office in West Monroe. That's going to go from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. So if you know anybody that might be, if you were interested, or if you know anybody that might be interested in that, please reach out again to the Union Parish office to RSVP. The Acadiana Fall Beef and Forage Field Day is tentatively set for the afternoon and evening of Tuesday, October 8th. More information to come on that. We are hosting the AI school at the Dean Lee Research Station in Alexandria, October 9th through the 11th. I just realized I had a typo. 9th through the 11th. I have sent out to the waiting list, but if you are interested in that, please let me know. And once the wait list has gone through, then we'll open it up for additional registration. So if you are interested in that, please send me an email and let me know. Josh Sally is hosting a breeding soundness exam day in DeSoto Parish on October 15th. I've got his contact information listed. That is going to be in Grand Cane. The cost of a BSE is $75 and trick testing is $50. Lee mentioned our cattle pregnancy determination clinic on October 15th or the 16th. I know there was a typo on some of the flyers that went out because Lee and I can't read and we messed up. So we forgot to change. We had the dates correct, but we forgot to change the day of the week. So it's either Tuesday or Wednesday that week, the 15th or the 16th. Contact Lee or I if you're interested in that. And then the Central/Southwest BSE Day that Brittany and Laney are hosting is on Thursday, October 24th at Dominique's in Opelousas. Please get with one of them. Their information is listed if you want to book a spot for that. And I think that's all we have rolling into State Fair after that. So yeah, Brittany mentioned the hay contest. If you have questions on the hay contest, reach out to one of us and we can help you with that information. Anybody have anything else to throw in? Okay, we will be back with y'all in just a couple of weeks.